Here we go. All right, here we go. I was looking back through my arsenal, and I've never done a test comparing the high output and standard output power strokes. In today's video, we're gonna see performance, MPG, and that's pretty much it because there's not much difference besides the power outputs. I borrowed these trucks from Larry H. Miller Super Ford here in Salt Lake City. They are both available. Let's go ahead and drive the high output first because there's a ton of these standard outputs here, but there's not many of them in this configuration. Now, I did a video discussing whether you guys think that Ford should discontinue either the standard output power stroke or continue to make the high output an option. Here's my thoughts. You should go back and watch the video. I think that there's not a lot of differences between the two for them to have these two options together. Like, they have the same transmission, all this stuff, and you can go back and watch that video. But I'm starting to see a lot more standard output power strokes, which is why I asked the question, you know. But nevertheless, these trucks are going to perform probably very similar. So I'll show you guys the temperatures. I'll also use my heat gun to show you guys some of the temperatures on the truck. But we'll just go probably about maybe 15 miles, give or take, down the road and back. But all in all, I mean, you're not going to feel any difference cruising on the highway with these two trucks. They're going to perform exactly the same. No different. I think the weight of the engines are about the same too. Now, I do know the high output is going to have more coolant. It's going to have more cooling for like the turbo compared to the standard output. Compression, I mentioned that in the last video, it's different as well. But there has to be a question: does it make sense for Ford to continue to offer two diesels? Because they're essentially just the difference in the horsepower and torque numbers, and really nothing else there that's worth noting for the most part. But yeah, when you drive a Ford truck, I've noticed that these trucks have done really well for fuel economy against the Ram trucks and the GM pickups as well. I want to try to do a real-world fuel economy run. If I ever find a guy who owns a power stroke for 2023 plus, I would like to drive my truck. Maybe if I can get someone with a trimmer, you know, and just drive them back to back. I've had instances where the L5P wins, but then I have instances where, or in most of the last few instances, it seems like the power strokes have been winning. I don't know if GM has updated the programming on the trucks. I know that with Ram, the Cummins had a scare with them having to settle in a lawsuit. So who knows, maybe GM got cold feet and changed the programming of the trucks. I'm not saying that's true, I'm just saying that it just seems like GM trucks are not getting better fuel economy than the power strokes at all. But yeah, this truck is smooth. I did not check. Darn it. This is why doing these tests are so hard. I did not check if both had the standard axle ratio back. See, that's a big deal. I mean, granted, it's a 331 versus a 355, but it will make a difference on that. And I could do a video if you want me to. I could do a drive video with a 331 versus a 355. Hopefully, both these trucks have the same axle ratio. Hopefully, but if they don't, I guess I'll have to redo this test. I just checked. So this truck has a 355 rear, which is an option. But let's go ahead and get around this slow truck here so I can show you guys. 60. We're in 9th gear. Now in 10th. So just over 60 miles an hour. We're about 1,500 RPMs. Now, I can do a video discussing whether or not you need the 355. I think on the diesel front, it's kind of a wash. I think that getting a lower gearing out back on this truck doesn't make as much sense. Now let's get up to 75. Doesn't utilize 9th gear, which is nice. We're probably about 1,700 RPMs at 75. Not bad. But yeah, the only big reason why you would run or option your truck to have the 355 is to run bigger tires. So if you want to get a 37-inch tire, 35, that's probably the only reason why you would want that 355. But if you're gonna keep your truck stock on the tire front for sizes, the 331 is all you need on these. I'm just being honest. I think that on these 10-speed trucks, it's not a huge need unless you plan on running a taller tire. I like the idea that, you know, Ford gives you the option to get the lower gearing, especially on the dually. But with the 10-speed, it's not a huge necessity like it was, you know, even really 5 years ago. I mean, when you had the 6-speed, you know, having an option was definitely needed. But I think before the 6 speeds, the 5 speeds, and 4 speeds, you definitely needed those gearing options for sure. So here are the numbers on the door. And then payload is 3,148 pounds. We just jumped off. So far we're getting 20.5 MPG, 7.4 miles driven. Now something else to consider is the temperatures, right? And then here is the, oh wow, the exhaust filter showing 50%, so it's probably a good thing I'm driving this truck today. But yeah, be sure to take note of those temperatures on this high output. That's not bad. I would say that 189 coolant, the temperature on the transmission, we've talked about this in other videos, especially towing. Fords just run a little bit warmer compared to GM pickups and Ram, because GM, I own one about 150, 160 maybe on the high end, like if it's really, really hot outside. I've seen 145 on similar temperatures like today. But towing, the Fords get over 200 degrees, even over 215 in some cases. Last thing I want to show you guys is the shift cycle. So I'm giving it about 20% throttle right now, 30%. Do you guys see how it utilizes 10th gear? There's so much power coming out of this engine, it doesn't even need a downshift. If I drove a GM pickup, if I drove a Ram, they would be in 7th, 8th gear for the GM, and the Ram would probably be down in probably 4th or 5th gear. And that's what I love about this engine. Like, I love the power that it gives you. That's what Ford is good at. They're good at giving you all the power. They're always trying to be that first place every time. And there's no question about it. Having 500 horsepower, 1,200 pound-feet of torque, it's just insane performance. Absolutely insane. And you can see that having that 355 is probably allowing it to utilize 10th gear more, because it doesn't need to downshift because it's already at a little bit higher RPM. So as you guys know, this is the Mac Daddy engine. 500 horsepower, 1,200 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes through a 10-speed transmission. Let's see how it accelerates to 60. Here we go.
$30, $60,
Come on, exhaust brake. There it is. I was trying to see if the exhaust brake was gonna come on. I turned it on at 53 miles an hour. It didn't do anything. I left my foot off the gas and brake and nothing happened. So that 0 to 60, what do you guys think about that? That was insane. 8.4 seconds. That doesn't seem fast, but we are higher above elevation, as I have pretty much proven it does affect turbocharged engines. But 8.4 is definitely probably one of the worst. But I did not brake boost it. I have it in just normal driving, and I did not do anything special. So there's no automatic four-wheel drive on this truck either. So 8.4 I would say is right there with GM on that new Gen 2 L5P. Just pull back in, 19.7 MPG, 15.2 miles driven. All right, out back, about 290 in that rear. I like how they do the intake here. Intake's like at 95. And then here's the EGR. now we're driving the standard output, and luckily this truck does have a 355. And as I said earlier, I'm not going to probably notice anything different between these two trucks, just in normal driving. They sound the same. I don't think that you would even know that there's a power difference unless you were like towing up a steep grade. I think that's where you would see the biggest benefit of the high output. But I did a towing test with a 2022. If you didn't watch it, you should go back and watch that video. I towed up a 6% grade for about 3 or 4 miles. And that standard output for the older trucks was able to get up to 80 miles an hour. I mean, that is insane. And my trailer, granted, is only about 10,000 pounds. The beauty of that trailer is the fact that it's a sail, so being able to get it up to 80 miles an hour is a big deal. So it is what it is. It's not like an open trailer. Now, because these trucks are the same in terms of the axle ratio, the gearing and the transmission are the same, you're not going to see any difference on the RPM, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But I meant to say this in the last drive, but these trucks drive good. I said that GMC and Chevy pickups, because of the independent front suspension, I say that they ride better, and I still stand by that, especially in the city. I think that's where the independent front suspension really does walk home with that victory of the best riding pickups. But on the highway, this rides about the same. I don't know how Ford's able to utilize that solid front compared to the Ram. The Ram is the worst, we know that. But the solid front on this truck, it rides great. It really does. Now, if you were to get like a camper package or the heavy duty front end, that might actually affect you a little bit. But yeah, as I said, you know, we're running about 70 miles an hour and we're just over 1,500 RPMs. If I were to get up to 75, it doesn't even drop down. Even with the standard output, it doesn't drop down to 9th gear. It's sitting right at 10th gear, under about 30% acceleration, and we are at, yep, 1,700 RPM. So, as I said earlier, there's no difference in how these trucks perform just with normal driving. Now, when I show you guys the 0 to 60, that might be like the biggest difference there. I do know with these 2023 plus trucks, they did some revisions to the transmission, the shift cycles. It's a lot better compared to the 2022s. I found that the 10-speed in the 2022s was kind of busy, and it just didn't shift as confidently as these newer trucks do. But yeah, we should be to the midpoint in about 5 minutes, and I'll show you guys where we are. Now the numbers are going to be slightly higher because this is a 1-ton, but these trucks are going to weigh essentially the same. So 12.4 is the gross vehicle weight rating. All in payload is 4,316 pounds. So do you guys think that we are higher or lower? That is the question. I haven't stopped yet, and I won't show it till we actually stop. We are, wow, holy smokes. That is insane. We are literally the exact same. Oh, 0.1 better. Oh, back down 20 and a half. So literally the exact same. As far as the temperatures go, let's see what they are. What? Is this the high output? No, this is a standard. No, this is a standard output. So the temperatures are lower for the trans and the engine coolant. Now, I didn't idle the other truck any longer. I just pulled the trucks under the bridge, just turned them off, and then I just did my video. So, wow. Now, as far, oh, well, I will say that other truck was definitely going through a regen, or probably in the process of going through a regen. So that's probably why the temperatures were higher, but it didn't affect the fuel economy. At least that's what it's showing here. And one of my buddies, you guys know him, Ben Byerly, his truck lost 4 MPG on the drive to work, he said. Today, actually, he had texted that to me. And I think that's why he was going through a regen. This is still a very relevant engine compared to GMC and Ram. 475 horsepower and 1,050 pound-feet of torque. All that power also goes to a 10-speed transmission. Let's see how it accelerates to 60. All right, here we go.
$30, $60,
no exhaust brake. I'm gonna tap the brakes. They perform exactly the same. And I don't know if you guys saw the boost. I got up to the exact same boost. It said about 31 on both trucks. Actually, this one said 32. But yeah, you saw the 0 to 60. This truck is a little bit slower. And I will say, if you had automatic all-wheel drive, I think that the high output probably would have gotten into the 7 seconds. I've been able to get there on some trucks, but sometimes it's just dependent on the road surfaces, and I'm on the median when I take off, so there's a lot of rock and debris there, so you have to take that into account. Just pull back in, 19.5 MPGs, 15.1 miles driven. Pretty much the exact same temperature as the high output. I saw 289 earlier, and then EGR. Not much of a difference either there. But if you're not familiar, the high output has a lot more cooling compared to the standard output. But I hope you guys liked the video. This was definitely an easy decision for me now. I think Ford should just discontinue the standard output and just have one power stroke. I know a lot of people are starting to choose this option here, which is the standard, because honestly, 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque is really just for bragging rights. I don't care what anyone says. That's all it's for. It's not for anything else. See you guys soon.